It's always just such a pleasure for us to build programs with you and to see ideas, you know, come into being.
Yes.
Miller was, for all intents and purposes, ICE's first home in New York. Our first portrait was our first major concert in New York in 2003.
We were chatting before about how it was that we came to the portrait idea for Matthias Pintscher.
You know, you have an idea and I have an idea and we're kind of thinking on parallel paths, and usually there's a relationship with the composer that's being cultivated on both sides. And in the case of Matthias, I remember ICE was just seeking out any opportunity to do something with him. But how much more perfect that it's a composer that you're passionate about, that we're passionate about, who recently decided to move to New York.
That's right.
Which is just our fortune.
It's a real benefit.
You know? And who hasn't really had a portrait concert of his work in this city.
For the portrait, we have a big US premiere, which is exciting and wonderful.
It's called Sonic Eclipse. It's in 3 movements, each of which are, I think it's Celestial Object 1, 2, and 3. And the ensemble is a really beautiful, interesting instrumentation of sort of ICE's core instruments, with solo horn and solo trumpet. So that's the whole second half of the concert. That's the real meat of the program.
Yes.
But the first half is really interesting too, and it's varied. It explores different periods of his. The earliest piece is from '97. I mean, he's still obviously very young.
He's a young
so
composer.
'97 for him was a really long time ago.
That's right.
You think about what's transformed for him compositionally and creatively. You know, what he's gone through in those years is probably what many people go through over an entire career.
Sure.
So the earliest piece is from '97, gorgeous piece called A Twilight Song for soprano and 7 instruments, which we'll be doing with our dear Tony Arnold.
That's right.
One of my favorite musicians on the planet. So that ends the first half, but backing up, we begin the program with a beautiful solo piano piece called On a Clear Day from, I think, 2004, which Corey Smythe will be playing. And also a gorgeous short song called Un Despertar, based on Octavio Paz's poetry for baritone and piano.
So I'm curious, here's something that's interesting. You work with composers all the time. We feature composers all the time. Overlap of composer-conductor is a little bit unusual. Obviously, not every composer is going to conduct their music. But how is that different than working with a conductor who's not the composer? Is it higher stakes? What does it tell us about that?
I think the stakes are higher, and I think it's a more intimate experience for everybody. I mean, more intimate because it's more vulnerable.
That's
I mean,
right.
for the composer and for the players.
Right.
And a lot of conductor-composers get in the way. With Matthias, it's like he raises his hands and invites us into a process of discovering this thing. And you know, listening to him conduct too, I get that sense as an audience member. What you have with ICE and Matthias, which is literally like, it's just a love affair. It's like a 25-way love affair. When you get that, I mean, of course the audience is gonna pick up on, on that. And we play differently because we take more risks.
Yes.
You know, and you can always take more risks on stage. You can always take more in rehearsal, but you know, especially on stage, you can always push yourself to do something that's more daring than what you did yesterday. And you get a whole group of people doing that under the careful guidance of a really gifted leader, and magical things happen.
That's right. Oh, that's wonderful.